business corporations. And what do we cover in business corporations? Well, the standard introduction: what is a business corporation? Publicly held corporations, closed corporations, to other types of corporation, and then of course their advantages and their disadvantages as a business entity when compared to other types of business entity. So what is a business corporation? A business corporation is a legal entity in its own right. Now, we did talk at the beginning on the first video on business entities about a legal personality. A business entity has its own legal personality, and that means to say that it is considered to be a legal person. It can sue and be sued. It can own property in its own right. So Coca-Cola, the company, will take you to court for copyright infringement, not individual personal people. The company has its own personal legal identity. Publicly held corporation is one that is held by general shareholders. These are the ones that we tend to know about on the stock exchange, watching the numbers going up and down. And each person has or holds a number of shares within that company. So it is owned by many people around the world. They are elected a board of directors, so the shareholders elect people to direct the company and the CEO, etc. But in general, the shareholders don't get too involved in the day-to-day running of the business. They simply hold shares in that business and hope, of course, they're going to make some profit. The value of the company and their shares go up. So shares are sold on the open market to investors as an investment, or hopefully as an investment. Of course, as we see in all financial warnings, prices, values can go up as well as down. So we're assuming that they will sell on the open market for a profit later. Shareholders have little interest in the business itself. They simply hold a piece of paper. Now, a closed corporation, on the other hand, is not open to the public. Members of the corporation do have shares in the company, but it is not out on the open market. So usually it is family or other members, close members, who know each other, who are invited in to have a share of the company. So there are open corporations, and this one is a closed corporation, not open on the public market. Now, what about the other types of corporations? Standard for-profit corporations. As with any business, the main goal is to make money, profit. That's what makes it a business. But we have charitable corporations, which are not for-profit corporations. So they're not actually legally classed as a business in their own right, because they're not out to make profits at all. They are actually out to make money that they can use to support charitable organizations or whatever organization they represent. So these are non-profit organizations and have non-business goals. They're out to support the community. Tax then makes a big difference on a corporation. If it's a non-profit corporation, it's a charity, then the tax breaks, of course, are completely different because they're not out to make a profit. For normal corporations, business corporations, any profits generated by a corporation are taxed as the personal income of the company. Don't forget that the company itself has its own legal identity, so it is taxed as personal income of Coca-Cola, KFC, McDonald's, whoever it may be. They pay their own corporation tax as McDonald's. Now, what happens to the remaining profits, hopefully profits anyway, that are distributed to the shareholders? They are distributed as dividends, so you get a percentage share of the company profits. But you are also taxed as personal income of the shareholders. So in actual fact, we get one tax of the corporation, the company itself, and then when you receive dividends, the individual person is taxed again. This results in a double tax system for corporations. It can, of course, be costly, but large corporations have various tax avoidance schemes perhaps we shouldn't use the word tax avoidance, but anyway, tax shy, shall we say. Otherwise, the tax burden is quite large. So what are the advantages then of being a corporation? So the limited liability, we did a separate piece on limited liability. If you are a shareholder of the corporation, your liability, if the corporation and the company you have invested in collapses or ends and finishes with huge debts, you may lose the amount you invested in the company, but no more than that. So it's limited to your investment only. Your personal assets will not be touched. The corporation is an entity of its own, and it doesn't end when ownership changes. This is an advantage that the company continues on. So the CEO of Coca-Cola retires, then Coca-Cola doesn't all collapse. Of course, it continues in its own right. That can be a big advantage. Easier to raise capital. You can raise vast sums of money if the company is doing well by selling off shares in that company and raising share capital, which can increase the capital available in your company. But of course, you have then divided up into shares to more people. So when you make a profit, if there are more shares issued, then those profits will be shared between more people. Profits and losses belong to the corporation itself. They are not shared in your personal assets. As long as it's voted through by the shareholders, ownership can be changed relatively easily. Disadvantages? Well, complying with government and legal regulations. There are a lot of legal regulations. You can be very costly and expensive. Establishing and setting up the corporation itself can be very time consuming and expensive and very complex as well.